management have not succeeded in delivering. If you doubted that, it would be important for you to know that China, which believed in the economics of communism and collectivism, and where state control and command over the choices of citizens superimposed I am being told that a very important dignitary will be coming soon, and so I would have to step out a bit. So the Chinese controlled the political rights as well as the economic rights of citizens. And one day in 1979, the then leader, Deng Xiaoping, began a sense that they could open up the space for their individuals to exercise economic freedom. At the time of this, China was a very poor country. In fact, the GDP per capita of China at that time was lower than the GDP per capita of some countries in Africa. But they commenced market reforms. And through market reforms, China, less than 30 years after, lifted 600 million citizens out of poverty. They couldn't do it under the Communist Manifesto. But they could do it because economic freedom is at the heart of the idea that the individual, given the freedom to be their best, would give everything to it. China, in fact, accounts for most of the global reduction in poverty that we know. China used to have 85% or thereabout of the citizens poor. Today, China's poor just 13%. It's a sense that it can be done. Don't you think so? It can be done. China is a perfect proof that it can be done. We love to talk about countries like Singapore. There's a historical recognition of the affinity that we have with them. Similarly colonized by Great Britain. Singapore's story is an amazing story. It's an amazing story of how a nation of people, understanding that they had no significance, not even to their neighbors, who were glad to kick them out of the Malay Union, decided that we have nothing, but there is something that we have. We've got our people. If we can develop our people to world-class human capital, then we have much more than other countries that have natural resources can ever dream of. And so Lee Kuan Yew, that great leader of that country, began that great odyssey of developing the country on the premise that the individual citizen made capable, exercising economic freedom, can be a source of economic agency greater than anything possible. Now, why am I picking on Lee Kuan Yew? I pick on him because if there was any leader that was into nationalism, Lee Kuan Yew was. But Lee Kuan Yew still understood that the markets are very effective and efficient in allocating scarce resources for development and growth. In the 60s, our income per capita and that of Singapore diverged only to a very minimum, something like 260 income per capita for Singapore and something like $96 per capita for us, as the case may be. Ladies and gentlemen, by the combination of sound policies, strong institutions, effective and efficient investment, and an economic method that emphasized economic pragmatism, where all the choices of policy were made not on the basis of emotion, but on the basis of hard-nosed analytical and empirical evidence. Singapore built itself to an economy which today has income per capita of $55,000. Nigeria has one of about $3,200. How did the outcomes diverge? It's a relevant question. Many things account for this divergence. There are the clear issues that have to do with the lack of stability in the governance process of our country and the poor governance issues that are related to them. However, I think that something that stands out the most is the way that we have walked the path of the basic economics that underpin the way that citizens behave in any society. We have veered from command and control economies to mixed economy, to command and control economies. And while all of that happened, ladies and gentlemen, we often posted economic growth rates that were less than the population growth rate. Population growth rate at 3% per annum, when it's higher than our economic growth rate in those era of command and control, mixed economy, and all kinds of mixtures of it, we actually were negatively growing, if there is anything like that. Point is that it took Nigeria at the advent of the third cycle of democracy, which now has lasted or will last, I think 17 years, or is it 16 years? By May 29th, 1999, we got into the third cycle of democracy. The previous two were an average of 5 years each. The rest of those years were under military rule. An important thing to take from this is the volatility and the instability and the constant change of the underpinning framework and premise of our economic development did not offer us the opportunity to gather moss, as they say, because a rolling stone gathers no moss. However, with the stabilization, relative stabilization of our democracy, and the fact that we embraced market reforms in those early 2000s, and the fundamental pillars of our embrace of market reforms had to do with things like embracing the custom of universal application, that healthy economic fundamentals can determine how healthily an economy can grow